As David Cameron tries to woo voters in the north, a party activist describes a disabled man as the cripple. Would they call this compassionate conservatism? Popularity contest and a row over offensive language. Forget Big Brother. This is the Tories in Yorkshire.
I know David Cameron has a disabled child. How would he feel if somebody called his child a cripple?
They're desperate to win new voters in the north. Michael Crick asks if they can. A close aide of Tony Blair's arrested over the cash for honours allegations. Going ballistic, international anger as China shoots down a satellite in space.
On my way, kid.
And poetry in motion, the twists and turns of physics boy as he sits his first A-level exam.
And on Newsnight Review 11 with Paul Morley, Sarah Churchwell, Ian McMillan and Denise Miner. The director of Basic Instinct goes Dutch with his latest cinematic offering.
Hoe ver zijn we nou?
Hoe ver?
Ricky Gervais's new stand-up show Fame. Does he really want to live forever? We ask whether Big Brother has finally become jaded.
You had the shopping is stuck in between your legs the whole out task. Why lie? Do not tell me to shut up. Shut yourself up.
And what's black, white, brown and red all over? The latest anthology from Daljit Nagra.
Hello, good evening. How do the Conservatives go about making themselves more popular in the north? Possibly not this way. Newsnight's obtained an email sent by one Tory activist to another, describing a disabled Labour aide as the cripple. The sender, John Hawksworth, hasn't denied the email's existence, but he says he'd prefer not to comment, so that may now be down to party leader David Cameron. As a YouGov poll shows the Tories stuck on 29% in the north, he's in Yorkshire, trying to convince voters his team are not just southern public schoolboys, and indeed that compassionate conservatism is alive and well. Here's Michael Crick.
David Cameron came to Leeds today, ready once more to tackle his northern problem. Polls and council elections show the Conservatives in the north of England have made virtually no progress these last 12 months, not matched their undoubted successes in London and the South East.
Thanks very much. Let's go in.
Here, the Cameron effect seems negligible.
People in the north see you speaking as a southerner with a party that's seen as southern-based, and you're having great difficulty in cracking it in the north of England.
Well, I don't think that's right. I think if you look at my most senior colleagues in the shadow cabinet, David Davis, a Yorkshire MP, William Hague, a Yorkshire Member of Parliament, George Osborne, who sits for a seat in the northwest of England. Actually, the shadow cabinet has got a strong voices from the north of England. That's as it should be, and I think the Conservative appeal, after 10 years of a Labour government that has failed, and failed so badly in the north of England, I think we have a very strong appeal, and we're going to be putting that forward right across the north of England.
One answer, a new Northern Conservative Party board, chaired by William Hague, former leader and blunt Yorkshireman. He recognises the scale of the task when 3 northern cities still have no Conservative councillors.
It would be wrong to generalise about the north and say there isn't Conservative support in the north. There is very strong areas of Conservative support, but it isn't broad enough. We've clearly got to rebuild in those cities that you mentioned, Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, and we've got to make sure that our policies, as we announce them between now and the next election, are tailored to the north of England, and so that's what this is about.
David Cameron's problems here in the north of England probably won't be helped by the revelation of an internal party email obtained by Newsnight, in which a leading Tory activist in the area, which David Cameron visited today, describes the chairman of the Bradford Labour Party, Mark Taylor, who is disabled, as the cripple, and uses that phrase not once, but twice. The email was written by John Hawksworth, whose wife is a Bradford councillor, and it was sent to the Tory leader of Bradford Council. In the email, written last September, Mr Hawksworth says, "My brother Peter met the cripple, on PC name for Mark Taylor, this afternoon, and he, the cripple, was pumping Peter about the selection for the PPC, that's a parliamentary candidate, for Keighley." He goes on, "I would trust that reptile less than a barrel of monkeys." It strikes me this email is not exactly the kind of language that David Cameron or indeed many members of the public would approve of. When I rang him tonight, John Hawksworth didn't deny sending the email, but refused to talk about it. Well, he says repeatedly it's a private email and he doesn't wish to discuss it. Chris Hopkins, the man who received the email and who is Conservative leader of Bradford Council, says that he immediately deleted the email. He told me tonight that he then reprimanded Mr Hawksworth, telling him it was completely inappropriate language and should never be repeated. Mark Taylor, the local Labour chairman who was being called the cripple, walks with a strong limp because of serious weakness in his right leg. He received a copy of the email anonymously by post only this morning.
For people out there who don't know me at all, really, to refer to me only because as a cripple, I think that's wholly unjustified. And if they're talking about that amongst themselves, then I'm afraid that this veneer of caring conservatism is simply just a cover.
In Leeds this morning, another side of the struggle David Cameron faces. Do you think David Cameron will go down well in Yorkshire?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
I just don't. I don't think he's got that fire in him as a Yorkshireman, you know what I mean? I think they'll be looking for somebody more substantial than him.
Yes, I like him enough to vote for him, yeah.
Toff.
A toff?
Toff.
Does that mean you like him or not?
He's charming, but I couldn't take him seriously.
Although David Cameron spent most of his life in the Thames Valley, he can point out certain northern connections. Indeed, he often points out how his wife Samantha comes from Scunthorpe. Not, though, from a run-down council estate. This is Normanby Hall, just one of the homes owned by Samantha's father, Sir Reginald Sheffield. The 300-acre estate at Normanby has been in the Sheffield family for more than 400 years. Today, they lease all but a private flat to the local council, who then run the house and grounds for the visiting public.
So that's one of Samantha Cameron's ancestors, the Duke of Buckingham.
Showing she comes from an even more upper-class, privileged background than him. Tricky, though, when Mr Cameron has to persuade people in the north he shares their concerns. Who knows? One day, the Camerons and ultimately their children may inherit all or part of Normanby, along with the Sheffield's other substantial properties of more than 7,000 acres. A more pressing concern is David Cameron's much less attractive political inheritance up north.
Michael Crick. We did, of course, ask the Conservative Party for an interview, but they declined our offer. They gave us the following statement, however. Some of the comments in that email are obviously offensive, and that is why Chris Hopkins, the local councillor who received it, rebuked John Hawksworth at the time it was sent. John Hawksworth accepted it was inappropriate.